Hello everyone. I thought I would make a quick-ish video giving a introduction and maybe a quick tutorial for the game Heavy Gear. I looked online, and while I was able to find quite a number of videos about the more recent versions of the game called Heavy Gear Blitz, I wasn't really able to find so much about the original game, which was simply called Heavy Gear. Sometimes Heavy Gear the role-playing game or Heavy Gear Tactical. So this is a miniature war game. Involves dice and measurements and charts and things like that, and models. It came out in 1995 from a Canadian company called DreamPod 9. They're still around. They're still steering the ship for the more recent versions of the game, but they've sort of moved on with their design and don't the more recent versions don't share a lot with the original game, unfortunately, which I think is a shame. It was a very big game in the 90s. I discovered it in late, probably 1998 or so, and it was in its second edition by that time. And it was very much kind of a competitor to games like BattleTech, another game. I love the original versions of BattleTech, and we've seen sort of this resurgence with BattleTech and not so much with Heavy Gear, which is too bad. Um, Now, I'm not really the best person to do this video. I don't have the most professional setup in the world, um, but I was waiting for quite a long time and didn't see any videos coming out, and thought, well, if if nobody's going to do it, maybe I should do it. I do have a lot of Heavy Gear books and experience with the game, and so I'll try to share that. So this is, like I said, a miniature war game. The models are terrific. You can actually still get a lot of the old models. Um, these are from probably the early 2000s. They're a little bit more dynamic than the first kind of release of models. There was actually several first releases, you could say. The very first models were kind of large RAFM models, and then they rescaled when the tactical miniature rules came out to this smaller scale. The models are maybe 20 millimeters tall, representing for 3 or 4 meters. So a standard infantryman is something like 11 millimeters tall. So it's kind of a weird scale in a way when you start working in other vehicles and infantry, but it works. It works really well, I think, especially for the gears themselves. And originally, it did play on a hex map, just like BattleTech, as you can see here. Now, eventually, they came out with this book, which put all the rules together under one volume and was did not require hexes at all. You could play on a normal sort of tabletop with terrain and stuff, and that's great. I do actually do that quite a bit with these rules, but now and then I like to come back to the original hexes. There's something about hex wargaming that's just it's hard to beat. So basically, to play the game, you have each side has a number of robots, and these are piloted by a gear pilot who has skills. We can take a quick look at that. Actually, I'll look at the original tactical rules, which are for the hex game. And you have a number of skills. The cool thing about this is they are common. Top right corner there. They're common to the actual role-playing game. So if you have a character from the role-playing game, they can use some of their skills just as they are in the role-playing game. This is how they look like in that game as well. And essentially the way it's set up is the number before the dash is how many dice you roll, and the number after the dash is what you add as a bonus. So we'll say that both of the pilots for this game are qualified, which just means they're normal, regular pilots. They're not inexperienced, and they're not kind of veterans either. So as you can see here, the qualified pilot will be rolling like 2 dice for a piloting check, and picking basically the highest die, and then adding no bonus to that. And then for gunnery, they will roll 2 dice and add a 1 to the highest die, and that's what their number is. The other skills won't come into play in this tutorial, and they're all 1 in any case. Electronic warfare, leadership, and tactics. Oh, I take that back. Actually, tactics will come into play. We'll have a scenario here between these two models. We have a Northern Jaguar on the right there. That's the yellow model on the table. And this is kind of more of an elite gear. Probably will win this match fairly easily. And on the left, we have a Jaeger, who is a southern gear. It's cheap. It's plentiful. It's a standard trooper machine. Not quite as elite. It doesn't have quite the technology behind it, or the armor, or the weapons, but they do what they can. What you don't see on here are the actual crew skills, so we'll just have to remember that they are 2 dice for piloting and for gunnery, and then there's a +1 bonus. And just to show that, let's say one of the gears has to take let's just say makes an attack, rolls his gunnery. He rolls 2 dice, picks the highest, ignores that one, and it's a 4, and then the bonus would add to that, making it a 5. Generally, with what happens with die rolls is that they are opposed, so you can roll against just a target number. In this case, for an attack, the other side would roll their piloting. It's a 6 and a 3, and the 3 is ignored. It's not used because it's lower. You take the higher. If we recall, there's no bonuses for piloting, so we don't add anything to it. So the end result would be 5 versus 6, or a missed attack, essentially. Okay, so how do you actually go about playing the game? When you start off, both sides will be rolling tactics, their tactics skill, in order to determine how many tactical command points they get. Neither side has any bonuses, and these are skills of 1 each, so that'll be for the Jaeger pilot, and this will be for the Jaguar pilot. Sorry, should have picked gears with more different names than that, but in any case. So, and I just made these counters. I don't know, it's going to focus. There we go. These are just kind of helpful when playing the game. I think, if I recall, it actually comes with some counters you can use as well. A lot of the DP9 games did back then. And if there's interest, maybe I'll show those off too. So the Jaguar pilot will get 6 command points. So those are useful throughout the game. They're most commonly used, I should put these in view, to get extra skills, get extra actions, I should say, or do other little bonuses. And the Jaeger pilot gets 4. In this version, in the original tactical rules, I actually don't think they were limited. You could use as many as you want. And in the later revised versions, the rules that came, you were, I think, limited to only using 1 per turn. All right, and next, the next step when you're playing the game, you would secretly sort of decide how many extra actions you would use, and then declare that. Normally a gear would typically only have a single action, and they can do that action without penalty. However, if they want to take a penalty to their actions, they can do a second action. So again, I just have these little counters, which are very hard to read on the screen, but it just says -1, and there's a very faint action word there. So the Jaguar pilot is in a better machine. He has obviously more tactical command points. He might think, I'm going to push it. I'm going to do 2 actions. So he takes a single -1, and all of his actions will have a penalty this turn. But he gets to do 2 actions. Now, there's actually no limit to my memory on how many actions you could declare, but obviously the penalties will stack up and make anything you do actually quite impossible. In actual practice, I'd probably limit the number of extra bonus actions you could take to something based on your skill level. Like maybe a qualified pilot could only take one extra action a turn, or 2 extra actions, or something like that. So, Jaguar, the Jaeger pilot up in the top left, let's say he's just not going to take any extra actions. He's going to be a little more conservative. He knows he's in an inferior machine, and so he doesn't want to push it beyond its limit. Now, next we determine initiative. This is normally a leadership role, but typically in the game you're going to be playing not with just one model, but a whole squad or cadre, as they're called for the South, for the other faction, of models that are kind of working together as a unit. When you're playing just one model against another, you can swap out the leadership role for something like a piloting role. It makes a little bit more sense that this is closer to like a duel between 2 pilots. So their piloting check is just 2 dice. However, we're going to cut back to the cards, and we'll take a closer look at these cards. I don't know how well these will show up in the video, but down here you have the actions. That's actually a feature of the unit card, because it depends how many crew the vehicle has. For every crew you have 1 action, so these each have 1 crew. But you also have something called maneuver, or man in this. Maneuver is a bonus to things like piloting checks. So we see here the Jaguar gets the machine itself gives its pilot a +1. So he'll roll 2 dice +1, and the poor Jaeger, like I said, it's an inferior machine. It doesn't have any maneuver bonus. And so it'll just be 2 dice. Okay, so let's take a roll. We'll roll for the Jaguar first. I think since this is a duel, let's count that penalty, because it's in play now for the turn. We'll count that against the Jaguar pilot. So he was rolling 2 dice +1, but 2 dice minus 1 + 1 is the same as just 2 dice, and he gets a 6. So we'll say the Jaguar gets a 6, and the Jaeger up here gets 2 3s, which is just a 3, right? Because we're just going to keep the highest die. So the Jaguar wins, and he would get what are basically temporary tactical command points called initiative command points, equal to the difference, which is 3. These have to be used by the end of the turn. The loser gets none and would have to depend upon his tactical command points, which don't come back at all for the rest of the game. You just get them at the beginning. Because later versions of the rules just limit you to use 1 at a time, we'll just say the winner just gets a free ICP, because they can't actually use more than 1. Again, if you had multiple models, you could actually spread them out, and everyone could benefit from the command points. Okay, so the Jaguar will be going first, and it's his turn to activate. We can switch back to his card. When the game starts, it's assumed that these gears are going at their usual speed, which is called combat speed. It's the first set of numbers in the top right corner. So if he is walking, it's 5. If he's rolling, and you can't quite tell, but the gears all have basically roller skates on them. They all have tracks or wheels that they use to roll on flat ground. It makes them faster in open terrain, but it doesn't really work as well in difficult terrain. So we'll just say they're walking, and because they're doing combat speed, we'll say he has those 5 movement points. Okay, so the Jaguar he could walk into the jungle directly in front of him, That costs 2 points. There's a handy tables on the back of the book, so we just look at Juggles right there. And Walker costs 2, and ground movement, which is the wheels, costs 3. So that's why I kind of said the wheeled movement is not great when it's in difficult terrain. So he's going to do it though. He's going to move 2 points into the jungle. So we'll just move that aside. Actually, I should do it so you can see the model. 1, 2, and then he's going to go up that hill, which again is elevation increase, add 2. So it's a clear spot. So it's 1, 2, 3. So that would be his whole movement. It'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which, as we saw, is his whole walking movement. And the question is, can he actually now see the Jaeger? So these we'll call just one level of elevation. This is 1, 2, and then 3 here. You obviously cannot see over terrain that is taller than you. However, from the center dot of this hex, the center dot of that hex, I would say it does pass through this. So I think this would block line of sight. Otherwise, he would have a clear shot at him. So he is going to simply move, and he will retain his ability to take a snapshot at the Jaeger when he moves. So it's now going to go to the Jaeger to act, switching back to the cards. We could see over here the Jaeger would be walking 4. We could say that the Jaeger is actually using wheeled mode to start, just to show that off. And essentially, you would use this second set, but you then suffer the movement penalties associated with ground movement instead of walking. So we'll say he is moving 6, and I simply mark that with another counter. This is for SMS, or secondary movement system. I'll put it by the model. So he now has 6 movement, but he's going to stay in the open. It actually becomes important also to mark how far you moved. This is based on actual movement. So the Jaguar was here, and he moved 2 hexes. So we'll use this 1 to 2 marker, and these are just kind of useful to track things. So that's a -2 to his defense rolls. And he moved at his combat speed. This guy moved at his combat speed too. So he will be going 6. This is 5 to 6 movement, which is a 0 modifier. He'll go 1, 2, or he'll go 1. The moment he enters there, the Jaguar can see him and can take one of his actions to snapshot and fire at him. I don't think snapshot was actually in the original box set rules, but it came in the, it certainly was in the miniatures rulebook. So he'll take a shot there, 1 into his movement, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we switch back to the cards, we can take a look at the weapons. The Jaguar has a medium autocannon. It has a base range of BR of 3. So we said that is 6 away, so it is in the second range category, which is medium range. There is also a point blank range, which is basically, I think, same hex or possibly adjacent hex. So maybe I can show that. Hold on. So I have a handy reference sheet here. At medium range, it's a -1 to the attack. Okay, there we go. We're in the screen. So to hit him, he's going to be rolling 2 dice, +1 because of his skill. And again, if we switch back, the machine gives him a +1 as well. So this is fire control. Jaeger doesn't have that either. Jaguar does. Has advanced fire control system, so that's a +1. So we're at 2 dice +2. And then it is at medium range, so it goes down to 2 dice +1. He also has a -1 for his multiple actions, so it goes down just to 2 dice. And then the attacker is moving, which is the Jaguar. The attacker is just moving at his regular combat speed, so there's no other modifiers. So it's just going to be 2 dice. And he gets a 3. The defender gets to make a piloting roll, which is just a base of 2 dice, but he gets to add to it his movement modifier, which we said was a 0, right? So it's just going to be 2 dice. He has no maneuver bonus for his gear. He has no piloting bonus. It's just 2 normal dice. But he rolls a 1, which is a fumble. Actually, that counts when you roll nothing but 1s. That counts as a 0. So the end result is 3 versus 0. And then we'll cut back to the cards for a moment to look at the medium autocannon MAC. Its damage multiplier, which is 10. So we have a difference of 0 times which times the damage multiplier. Sorry, a difference of 4 times the damage multiplier of 10 is a result of 40, which when you compare to the armor, which is top left, is not quite 3 times, is actually twice, which is this lets you roll on the damage table. And I'll show you that. So you multiply up the base damage by the difference in the defense roll, and you get a high number which you compare to the armor based on this table. So we were more than or equal to 2 times armor, but we didn't quite get to 3, right? We got 40 versus 15, which is just short of 3 times. You'd have to get to 45. So we get a -2 armor and a heavy system damage roll. So let's do the armor real quick. So here the armor boxes, it represents where his armor is at. So I think we said -2. So we'll cut out 2. So now his armor is actually 13. That doesn't really, it's not very clear, but it becomes 13. So he shot off quite a lot of his armor plating. And what's worse than that, we also have to roll on the heavy damage. So we'll do that now. So it's just a die roll on this table right here. Let's roll the die and then we'll figure out what it is. It's a 2. All right, here we go, system damage. And we rolled on the structure of the vehicle, and we'll just go down the right-hand column because that's the heavy damage column. And we get to sub-table B, and we'll add a 1. So that's going to be another die roll. Got a 3. We add a 1 because it said to add a 1. And that gives us a total of 4, which is -2 to maneuver. So what happened essentially is the Jaguar creeped up through the jungle, walking at combat speed. The Jaeger peeled around the corner of the hill, going at a faster combat speed because he was rolling around, and the Jaguar took his shot, and huge chunks of metal flew off the Jaeger, reducing him to 13 armor and giving him a -2 on his maneuver. So we'll just write that on the card. And when you play, there's actually another way to have these cards. You can have them as full sheets, so you can take these notes. Or you can, they actually had these cards that came with the models, and you just slot them into a card slot holder, and like for a binder, and you can write on them with a dry erase. But we'll say he's down to -2 on his maneuver. He has some damaged leg system or something. He's limping around. That actually doesn't stop the turn though, because that was a snapshot. At this point, the Jaeger's still moving forward. He could take his attack now, but he wants to get in nice and close and get a nice hit on him. So he's going to do something kind of risky. The base range for his weapon is only 2. So 2 would be short range, 4 would be medium range, and 6 would be long range. So he's still quite far. So he's going to do his second move and move to here. Now, you can keep doing snapshots as long as you have actions. We said the Jaguar took 2 actions this turn instead of his normal default 1. So he can snapshot him again. Should he, though? I think he is going to. Let's say he's going to. And so he's going to make another attack. And again, he will be rolling 2 dice plus 1 for gunnery for the pilot, plus another 1 for his fire control system. So 2 dice plus 2. He is still in medium range, because this would be short, and that's still medium. So that's -1. So it's 2 dice -1. Sorry, 2 dice plus 1. And what else? He still has that penalty. So it's just 2 dice again. But he got lucky last time. Did pretty well. So he rolls a total of 4. We'll discard the 3. The Jaeger will be rolling 2 dice for the base skill. He doesn't have any other bonuses, right? He's moving at a speed that gives him no modifier, and he doesn't have any particular skill as a pilot in maneuver. However, that leg is really causing him problems, so now he's going to have a -2 on his defense roll. This is not great. And he rolls a 2, which is dropped down to a 0. This might be a good time for him to use some of his command points. I think you're probably meant to declare this before, but I think this tutorial will end very quickly if we don't do this. So one of the ways you can spend command points is to get a +2 on a roll. So let's say he actually ended up rolling a 4. It still is -2 down to 2. So the difference is now just 2. So he got a +2 from his spend of the attack command point. That would be his only spend he could make this turn. So he can't use it now to make another attack, which is probably what he was thinking of doing. So hopping back again to the cards. We have a total difference on the die roll of 2. We have a damage of ×10 on the weapon. So he's a damage result of 20. And again, the Jaeger's armor is no longer 15, it's 13. However, that's the same difference. That's simply one times as much or less than 2 times. If he hadn't done that, and if he hadn't done the command point, he would be facing 40 versus 13, which is 3 times as much, right? Because 3 times 13 is 39. And he would be in serious trouble. Just to go back to the damage table again, we'd be looking at overkill vehicle destroyed if he hadn't done that command point. So using that command point to kind of duck out of harm's way was a pretty wise move. It's reduced it to -1 armor, light system damage. So let's go back to the card. We'll mark that armor damage. All right, so he's down to 12 armor now, which is not great. And he has a light system damage roll. So let's roll the dice and then we'll check the chart. So it's a 5. System damage. Now we're going to look at this middle column here because it's light. We rolled a 5, and it says aux system or auxiliary system, -1 to 1d6 auxiliary systems. So this won't really matter so much for this game, but essentially you would roll a die. I rolled a 1. One system on the card would be penalized. The way this works essentially is, well, I should show these rolls, I guess, to figure out which systems are affected. Both sides roll die, so the Jaguar player rolls a 1, the Jaeger player rolls a 5, and whoever passes, or whoever rolls higher, gets to choose which system is penalized. So you'd have to do that. If you rolled a 6 systems being damaged, you'd have to make those rolls 6 times to figure it out. But the Jaeger pilot won, so he's going to, let's just say his communication system is -1. He's not going to use that in the game. That's why, because he doesn't have any other people in his squad, so he doesn't really need that system. So he says he gets some damage to his radio or something. It's not important. if the if the Jaguar pilot won that role, he'd probably say your arm is damaged. That's still an auxiliary system, or your sensors are damaged, or and so on and so forth. Um, there's even rules in one of the books for damaging ammunition stores, like extra clips and stuff, which could be kind of bad when your ammunition blows up. So he took both of his shots. He's still moving. He's only moved 2 out of his 6. He will turn. He gets actually a free turn. So when he's moving like this, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he's going to end his move right there. So in the rules normally, yes, so point blank is actually the same hex. Didn't quite get to the same hex. But he is still in short range, which is helping him. He's going to now take his action. And let's see. He is going to, I was thinking of taking a call shot, but I think maybe I'll just take a normal attack. Again, he is 2 dice plus 1 for pilot skill, and he doesn't have any fire con bonus. However, at short range, there's no penalty either. There's no penalty for his combat speed, and there is the defender has a pretty hefty penalty on his roll. So this actually might be kind of interesting. The Jaeger pilot has to roll high. So here's his attack. It's just 2 dice. A 6. That's a good roll. So he'll keep the 6, obviously. Now it's the oh, sorry, it's 6 plus 1, right? Because his gunnery gives him a plus 1. So it's 7. The Jaguar pilot starts by rolling 2 dice, has a plus 1 for his vehicle's maneuver rating, so it's actually 2 dice plus 1. However, these are still penalties, right? So it's a -3 on that, so it becomes 2 dice minus 2. And I don't think there's any other penalties. He's not in cover or anything, so. Ugh. He rolled a 2, which goes down to a 0. Now, effectively, the Jaeger pilot has got a 7 to a 0, so a difference of 7. If we go back to the cards, the light autocannon on the Jaeger is times 8. 7 times 8 is, excuse my poor math, 72. Is that right? No, that's not right. 6 is 48, 56. There we go. Yeah, I could do math. 56. 56 compared to 16 is more than 3 times. 3 times 16 would be 48. So 56 is a triple roll. So as we saw on the table, damage over 3 times armor is overkill, vehicle destroyed. So the plucky, I should hold that a little more steady so you can see it. So the plucky little Jaeger pilot pulled through, came up close and put a shot where it counted, and the Jaguar goes down. Now, this is just a very quick scenario, obviously, meant to kind of showcase how the rules work. You could tell how kind of quickly things can evolve. That's a single turn, and the Jaeger managed to ice the Jaguar pilot, even though he had a superior machine. Could the Jaguar pilot have used one of his command points to get a +2? He could have, and then it would be a difference of 5 times 8 is 40. Is 40 versus 16 is only twice as much, so that would only be a heavy damage roll, and we could continue the scenario that way. So he wouldn't necessarily be doomed if he decided to use his points to save him. But it's a very fast moving game, as you can tell, and there's kind of a lot of action to it, especially when you get several models on the table, and it could be quite a lot of fun. There's a lot of diversity in the vehicles, the gears themselves, a lot of good integration with the role-playing game and other kind of sub games within the Heavy Gear line, and it can be kind of quite exciting war game. So we'll leave it there. If you have, let me see where I can put this camera. If you have an interest in kind of seeing that kind of video, I'm happy to put out more tutorials that give a sense of it. But yeah, that's just kind of a quick introduction to heavy gear to give you a sense of the rules. All right. You can put your comments down below if you have any questions. If I got the rules wrong, I almost certainly did get some of the rules wrong. I do play this fairly regularly, but I play a lot of systems, and it can be hard to keep all the versions of heavy gear straight in your head. Okay, so thanks. Have a good day.